Hi guys, Greg here from FretDojo.com, the website which is all about mastery of jazz guitar. And it's pretty exciting stuff. I'd like to welcome you to this live show that I'm putting on, a very special live show actually, because I've just wanted to let everyone know that I've put together a brand new 3-part video series all about the mastery of jazz guitar improvisation. So I've spent a lot of time on this series and it's had a lot of good comments already from the people that have watched it. So in case you haven't seen it yet, I'll just bring up that link there. It's www.FretDojo.com/workshop. And if you head to that link, you can enter your details and get access to the first video of the series right away. So I'm actually doing this live stream because I wanted to address some questions that have come out of people watching the video series so far. Some really good questions, and in particular a question about how to memorize the material that you're learning on jazz guitar. I saw a couple of comments in the comments feed there under the workshop video talking about how, you know, I'm doing all this practice, I'm learning all this material, and it seems to be okay for a couple of days, you know, when I learn a new line and working it through the changes, but then a few days later I can't remember it, or it might be a couple of weeks later I can't remember it. And so how do I get all this material that I'm learning on the guitar to stick? So I wanted to address that because it's important. You know, if you can't remember the material that you're working on, then it's all for nothing, really. And especially when it comes to jazz improvisation, because that ironically, to improvise really well, you have to have a lot of raw materials to draw from instantly that's really well ingrained under your fingers. So something I will say though, when it comes to improvising, is that especially when it comes to jazz guitar, I should say, I think what a lot of people miss when they're practicing jazz guitar, and it's a little bit deceptive, is how much you need to learn the material in order for it to stick. You know, like I might have a little line that goes something like this, you know. You know, that's only like a short 2-5-1 line, right? Now, the problem is that you can get lots of books, like jazz tuition books and things like that have like hundreds of lines like that. And so you feel like you need to learn like 100 lines as fast as you can to learn jazz, but that's not the case. If you learn just a few of these little stock lines, but learn them really deeply, you'll find that that'll kind of set up the guide rails for improvising, but it won't work if you skim over them too much. You'll find that if you try to learn too many lines in one go, they'll get washed away. They won't register in your long-term memory. So the secret to ingraining these lines and having this raw material for improvisation is repetition, basically. Okay, so, but the problem is repetition can be boring. So how can we make it a little bit interesting? And that's what I'm going to cover in this video. So just one little thing, and I was thinking about this question that was raised about how do I remember all this material? And it brought to my mind, you know, that concept of transcribing. You know, jazz players in general, they all recommend that people should transcribe off recordings. And I kind of thought about this and I went, well, the thing is about transcribing something off a recording is that it forces you to memorize the material, really. Because especially if you're deliberately avoiding writing it down straight away, okay? Because that's the danger of transcribing. If you're writing it down first and then learning it on the guitar, that you'll find you'll start skimming over the material. But what you should do is try to learn as much as you can of the transcription by ear, and then put it on the guitar. You know, figuring it out without writing it down. Now, this situation forces you to remember the material, okay? Because it's just the way it is, you know. You to be able to play it along with the recording, you have to have learnt the patterns really well. To be able to hear it in your mind, you would have had to listen to it a lot of times, and so it's encouraging that repetition very naturally. So that's why transcription works. Basically, it's kind of just a way to facilitate forced repetition of material, but you can do this without necessarily transcribing. That's the thing. It's just that people often don't, and that's why they can't remember the material. So here's some ways that you can very quickly learn material on the guitar. They're fairly obvious, some of these methods, but I think it's still worthwhile to talk about. So before we get into the close-up here, just wanted to let people know about this new 3-part video workshop that's just come out that I've put together. You can get the first video in the series here by going to this link, FretDojo.com/workshop, and you can get instant access to this right away. So anyway, let's go to a close-up now. I'll just change the camera here. And so, let's talk about this line that I was just working on. Here we have a simple 2-5-1. Groovy loovy. Okay, so now a great way to encourage repetition and for it to be interesting rather than just going round and round on that line in that position is very simple. The easiest way to do this is to move up and down the fretboard, maintaining the same pattern. So essentially changing key 1 fret at a time. So it was firstly here. And then moving it up a fret. And then up another fret. Or trying it in random spots on the guitar, you know, you could go down here. Okay, so that's a very simple technique, but often overlooked. You know, did you see, I repeated that like 5 or 6 times then, but it didn't feel like it because my mind was being challenged because of the sounds of the changing key. Now, this practice is very important. It's easy to do, but it gives you a relative sense of how the line exists without it being fixed to just a single key. But whilst maintaining the same pattern. It can be deceptively difficult to do that sometimes, especially if you're dealing with a faster line. So that would be the first technique I would recommend for memorizing material. Okay, is moving it over the fretboard. Now, the next technique I would offer is another simple one. It's learning it in all of the fretboard areas in the same key. Okay, so I'll demonstrate what I mean here. Let's go to another close-up. So we have this line. I'll show it in its original position in C major. And just by the way, guys, if you're tuning into this stream right now, welcome, and feel free to leave some questions. I'm pretty sure, at least on YouTube and Facebook, if you're tuning in there, I should be able to see your chats come up, and I'll try to address what I can during this session. But anyway, so that was that line there, and now what I'm going to do is move it to the other fretboard areas. I'm using the caged position system, if you're familiar with that. So this was the G caged position in C major. Now let's move this to like the A position in caged position in C major. So if you don't know what that means, don't worry. So what I'm basically doing is keeping it in the same key, but moving it to, say, down here instead. Okay, so there's another place I could play it. Now, you might struggle with that a bit, but there's an easy way to do this. Did you see with the first lick, it is kind of tracing out this kind of D minor bar chord shape. Now down here I'm kind of tracing out this D minor triad shape that exists in this position here. And then I can kind of see these chord shapes kind of embedded in this line as I'm playing. So this is a great way to keep your place on the fretboard and to help train your ears to what's going on. So there was one fret position, and now here's another one. Let's say we could go up here. Okay, so you can see in the course of this video how many times I'm repeating this line, but in various ways. I'm introducing variation to keep myself interested. So when you say take it into another one of these fretboard positions, I would then apply it to the first technique that I was showing you at the start of the video, moving it up and down fret by fret. So this could very well take up a whole couple of practice sessions, just moving this line in various positions up and down the fretboard. So here we have. So anyway, or I could sort of do it here. And you start to, as you can see, I'm playing a little game with myself, trying to kind of catch myself out to see if I've really got a handle on that line. It's quite good actually. I'm kind of able to practice this line while I'm doing this show. I'm kind of multitasking here. Cool. So that's the general idea, is moving the line over the fretboard as much as you can. Now, there's another way to encourage the memorization of this material, and I'm going to show that to you in a moment. But just before we do, I'd like to welcome the people watching this show. We have people on Periscope watching. Welcome to Benjamin, Bomber, and the Captain of the Sea. Wow, hello Captain, I hope you're doing well. And yeah, what we're talking about today is some tricks you can do to memorize material for jazz guitar, or actually for any instrument. But this is especially useful for jazz guitar. And for those of you that are interested, we can, I'll just put this link up on the screen here. If you go to this link, FretDojo.com/workshop, you'll be able to get access to a 3-part video series that I've put together recently that covers all aspects of how to establish the foundation for improvising on jazz guitar, and to address some of the issues that you're might be facing when it comes to learning it, because a lot of people are confused and struggle with how to develop improvisation skills on guitar. Now, Benjamin says, grateful for this broadcast, and well, Benjamin, I'm grateful to have you here, and I'm glad all the tech side of things is working at the moment. So anyway, one more thing that I'd like to address here is being creative with the material in other ways, because we haven't really been improvising so much so far. So let's just go back to that first fret position I had. Okay, I bet you're getting sick of that line by now. Now, so that's the thing, like, we're getting a little bit bored with it. If we introduce some variation, we can maintain the interest in our practice, but still vary it and be, sorry, I'm putting the cart before the horse. We can still maintain interest in our practice, but then what we can do is kind of trick the mind into continue to repeat this material enough so we remember it. Okay, so I'm going to put on a 2-5-1 backing track now in C major, and I'm just going to jam on this line a little bit, change the rhythms a bit, maybe change some notes, move the patterns about here and there, maybe start at a different point in the progression, and let's see what that sounds like now. So this is just the basic line. Okay, so you kind of get the idea of what I was doing. Just kind of noodling around that basic idea and seeing if I can incorporate a bit of variation. Now, this is probably the most important technique, because what it's going to do is and it doesn't matter how, you know, like some of those lines of working that I was doing, some of them was like, maybe not, but that's not the point. The point is because you need to, when you introduce this variation, it starts to give you a sense of the general intent of the line, rather than the intent of the line rather than kind of what the actual notes are. Okay, so and it's fun to do, you know, and when something is fun, you're much more likely to remember it. Okay, cool. So I'm just looking at some comments here. I'll see if I can get into this chat. The comments are flying thick and fast. We have Therese Diaz Aguirre saying, I'm from Brazil. Very nice, man. Well, thanks, man. It's great that you are tuning in and enjoying this little show I've put together today. And just for all of you that are watching, if you want to get access to a very detailed workshop that I've put together on improvisation, you can get that at FretDojo.com/workshop. Okay, so let's see who else has joined here. We've got Mike Miller. Hello, Mike. Looks like my chat box is frozen up, but that's okay. Teresa said Charlie Parker. Oh well, not quite, man, but I'm doing my best. Okay, cool. So I think that should probably sum it up for this show. So in summary, what we were talking about today is memorizing material for jazz guitar, and I gave 3 different techniques. We talked about just taking an idea, moving it up and down one fret at a time on the fretboard, and then moving it in, playing it, seeing if you can play it in the different fretboard areas in one key, and then combining those 2 techniques, and then finally just putting on a simple backing track and just messing around with the lick in one position for a while. Now, as you can see, those are 3 simple techniques, but that could easily take up a whole week of work in the practice room. Now, but don't be too overwhelmed, because you can get these books of like 500 licks of Charlie Parker or whatever, you know. You don't have to learn that many licks to be able to improvise really well. You only need to know a few really strong lines. Listen to someone like Joe Pass. He had a lot of lines under his belt, but there are a few key ones that keep coming back all the time in his playing. And so if it's all about how you practice. If you go dive deep on a few lines, the ones that you like the sound of and the ones that are good examples of jazz vocabulary, then you can learn to improvise really easily. So I go into all that in my new workshop, and that link is still on the screen there. I didn't realize I'd still left it up there, so I'll continue to leave it up there for a little while. But yeah, we've got some more comments. Abe says, sounds informative. We'll have to watch when I have more time, and hopefully archived. Thanks. Well, yeah, man, I hope the link will still be up there for a little while, so check it out while you can. Ho Chi says hello. Hello to you too. Man, we've got an international audience here. It's awesome. Benjamin says, Aussie, been there many times. Yes, I am Australian, would you believe? An Australian jazz guitarist. Bizarre, but true. And we've had quite a good session here. Lots of people have joined up. So I hope you enjoyed that, guys. I had a really great time connecting with you and chatting, and I think we might wrap it up at this point. But yeah, subscribe to my various channels. I'm on Facebook. You can find me if you search for Fret Dojo. Periscope, the same. Search for Greg O'Rourke or Fret Dojo. And otherwise on YouTube, look for Fret Dojo there as well. I have a channel. And my website is www.FretDojo.com. And it's got like lots of cool lessons on jazz guitar and technique and all sorts of stuff. So, wow, we've got Aussie like Tommy Emmanuel. Nice. Thanks, Tim. Jeez, man. Praise is being lauded on me at the moment. I don't know. I better kind of try to rein myself in here before I get too ahead of myself. I'm still working on my chops a bit, but it's nice to be compared to a master like Tommy. All right, guys. Well, I better work out how to turn off this thing now. But in the meantime, make sure you keep playing your jazz guitar, and I'll see you in the next live stream. Bye for now.